Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to the Sigma Prepper SHTF Scenarios Survival Show, the prepping show, the place to be, with your host, Andy Sigma Prepper. Thank you everyone for being with me. I hope you caught the SHTF Intel report that was just streamed live before this show. I'm not even sure if the link to that is in the description, but there you go. I'll add that in later on. So it should be in the description below. So thank you so much for joining me for that one. But it was nice to be able to get the SHTF Intel out of the way, because today's show we're going to be talking about options that you have for heating in an SHTF scenario, like a grid down, power outage, so dark winter type thing, so no power. And we're looking at what the options are to keep warm and stay heated. Last week, don't forget, we looked at different options with battery banks. So I talked about things like DC 12-volt kettles to use for hot water bottles and things, heating pads. We looked at various lighting options using USB battery banks and bigger battery banks with 12-volt lighting strips, LED lanterns and so forth, right? So this week what we're going to do is, I did say that I was planning on getting a diesel heater. A parking heater, like the Chinese diesel heaters, right? And the thing is that where I'm located, where my lab office type thing is, right? It's separate from the house, so it's like it's a very good case study because it is off grid, right? It has proper grid coming in, but it's I've got solar panels and a battery bank, right? So I treat this as though it was completely off-grid. It's a great way to try and be green, right? And to try and be super economical with your power. Apart from when I'm doing a live show and I've got to have all the lights on, right? But, so thank you so very much, by the way, for hitting the like button if you haven't done already. So what we're going to do is, I ordered the diesel heater. Thank you so very much to Danger Bob and Extreme Focus for your support of the channel and the family. So thank you so very much. And because of you, I was able to grab one of these chappies here. They're up and down in price depending on the shipping or anything, on what version you have. So depending on what sort of options you go for, right? But this is the kind of thing we're going to be talking about largely today. Not entirely, but this is what I'm going to be showing you that's arrived this week. So I'm going to be doing basically an unboxing, and we'll go through it. And I'll show you what you get, what you got to do, what the idea is, what the pros and cons are, and so on. And we'll solve some problems together. I'll give you some options, and we'll work it through. And I'll show you some other things as well, which will be part of that plan tonight. So the agenda is going to be, usually we would do the welcome and intro, and we'd have the SHTF Intel report, but of course tonight we're just going to get straight into the SHTF scenarios, and we'll be going straight in with the lab cam basically, and I'll be going through some of the things I've got, and I'm keen to show them to you. So let's have a quick say hello then and see who we've got in the chat with us tonight. Dave Pedigree Mongrel's the first one that's showing up for me. Danger Bob, make it 50 buckaroonies. Danger Bob was betting $5 we'd have carbon monoxide, but I don't have any diesel, but don't worry, we'll get to that. Extreme Focus in the house. Who else? Cynthia, my darling, great to see you. Who else we got? Oh, Ghost Cowboy, great to see you, my man. Great to see you, and good to see your posts on the Discord server. So those who aren't joined already, it's completely free to do so. Do get yourself over to the Sigma Prepper Discord server. Links in description. All sorts of updates. Loads of people posting all sorts of stuff. Loads of people joining the server. Look at it all the time. So it's lovely to see you joining. Thank you. We've got animal lovers section there. People posting their bidnir. We've got all the SHTF food growing posts that people are putting in there. Thank you everybody who's contributing to the posts. It's great to have. We've got breaking news as well in there. So there's always something to look at. So go and take a look over the Discord server. Links are in the description. It's completely free to get in there. I need to add some bits and pieces in myself, and I'll always put announcements on there when we've got things coming up live, right? So get yourself signed up on Discord, completely free of charge. And of course, if you are a VIP Patreon member, then we'll be having an after party, behind the scenes live chat later on after the show. So first and foremost, I am well, for those that don't know, I'm 100% independent. No sponsors, no networks, no paid adverts, no monetization, no external funding, no affiliates or partners, and shadow banned. Yeah. But it's alright because there are ways to help. SigmaPrepper.com/donate website, got all the links there. Streamlabs.com/SigmaPrepper. This is where you can do super chats. Even though we're not monetized, we can get around that with Streamlabs.com/SigmaPrepper. Go straight through. It's brilliant to do. Thank you so much for supporting the channel if that's what you want to do. PayPal, another way to help. But Patreon, definitely got to do it. All sorts of free gifts, free mugs, stickers, you name it, access to behind the scenes footage, and of course the Discord after parties like we'll be having tonight, along with these people. Thank you so much to the VIP Patreon members for signing up and supporting the channel and helping us to fight through, push through no matter what, so we can get this information out while we still can. Thank you so very much. Thank you to the VIPs, and don't forget you can sign up to Patreon as a VIP and support the show for as little as 20 cents a day. 20 cents a day, Andy, that's right, 20 cents a day. Links are in the description, you know what to do, and if you can't do any of that, then at least you can do is hit the like button and share on your social media, and that's all good in the hood. So, right. Now we've got that out of the way. Thank you, my absolute darlings. And if we hadn't had these wonderful family here with Sigma Prepper supporting me, then there's no way I'd be able to do the show tonight, showing what all the diesel heat is all about in the first place. So thank you so very much to Extreme Focus. Really appreciate your support. Thank you so very much, Danger Bob, for your support after last week's show. So what can I say? Absolute. Thank you very much. So should we just get straight over into the lab area then, shall we? Because I've been setting up various bits and pieces today behind the scenes, so I can go through this with you. So I've basically unboxed, that's about it really, and I haven't even really unboxed the Chinese diesel heater. So these, like I said on the AliExpress I was just showing you there, is where I got mine from, which seems to be a pretty is pretty proven to me. So what I'll do then quickly is let's just give you a quick look at what the options are, right, and then we'll go and unbox it and we'll have a little sneaky peek together. Right, so this is the basic unit here. They have different options: 2 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt and 8 kilowatt, and the price varies accordingly, plus tax to the UK as well and so on. Right, I think it was about 150 something pounds in the end with shipping. So that's that, right? And there's a few other bits and pieces that are worth getting. I did quite a lot of research, watched a lot of videos, and I've been following van life and, you know, camper vans, caravans and camper motorhomes. I probably follow at least 40 YouTube channels for van life, right? So I've been very familiar with the diesel heater, parking heater, these Chinese things, the Chinese diesel vehicle parking heater. That's what they call them. But so they're very popular in camper vans, right? Van lifers. So I'm very familiar with watching other people use these over the years, and one of the things I've always seen van lifers do is have a spare fuel pump, oil pump, and a spare coil, right? And I'll get into that in a minute. Right, but these are the things that are most likely to fail. So if you want to have, you know, like 1 is none and 2 is 1 and all that, with prepping, so it's worth having for the sake of £14, you see. Right, so I've grabbed a spare set of that. The other thing that I've got a few bits and pieces of as well, and again they vary depending on what you're getting. I think I got something like this to give me options, right? So this is where you've got the hot air outlet, right? And again, I'll show you what you get with it, and then we'll come back to this maybe, and I'll show you what the options are that you can buy for quite cheap. So you've got options, and you can shut these off as well and on, so that you can divert air that way, hot air, yeah? So we'll talk about that. I also ordered some of this zirconium ceramic fiber blanket, right? Fire resistant. This is good to 1430 centigrade. 1400 degrees centigrade. And so I'm planning, if I'm going to need to put the exhaust pipe through the wall, then you're going to want to be using something like this to protect it. And you know, you've got things like elbow brackets, which are worth having for the exhaust, and I'll get into that. And then you've got things like the glass fiber exhaust pipe covering to give it more protection. heat protection. There's other versions of this, but as a starting point, it's nice to have a 22-24 millimeter. This is 2 meters worth. And then I'll be able to use that accordingly, perhaps just where it passes through the wall, if that's the way I do it. But again, we'll get into the lab and we'll check it out. Other things that can be useful as well, the high temperature resistant smoke exhaust pipe sealant kitchen cauldron leak pro, dear oh dear, but basically aluminium foil tape, yeah. This is handy to have on hand, no pun intended. And then a couple of connectors, some real dodgy Jubilee clips, or hose clips, depending on what you want to call them. I tend to switch these out, and Urban Harvesting, actually, a friend of mine, he gave me the heads up on a few styles that he's used before for high temperature. I've done a lot of water cooling work with PCs and hose work, but obviously I'm not dealing with the temperatures that I've now got to be dealing with when we're talking about the exhaust system, right? Can get very, very hot. So yeah, I'm going to need to sort out some decent Jubilee clips. But I mean, these are going to be fine for the time being. But I do intend on using some exhaust paste just to seal the exhaust up as much as possible. But we'll get onto exhaust in a minute. This is the options here for extra exhaust pipe length. I think I got an extra muffler with a length of exhaust as well, because you can make it even quieter. And having the extra length of exhaust pipe, it means you can run it a bit further away, right? So these are the things that I'm going to be talking about. And the reason being is I referred last week to this document that was that I talked about from Department of Business and Energy and Industrial Strategy from the British government, right? And this was a plan of how they would do rolling blackouts with a supply chain shortage, of which they're already predicting. So this is kind of what it would look like, and I went over this last week in detail. But we'll get to the juicy bits, which is where the rota plan is for blackouts. So a black square represents a 3-hour block of time where the power is turned off. So our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to figure out ways of heating and lighting and charging our stuff without having the power on. And these are going in order of the level 10 disconnection. Yeah, level 11 disconnection. So this is the different levels the government will employ depending on the level of shortage and desperation and emergency, right? So I'm pretty sure they're going to get to at least level 15. I can just feel it in my bones, yeah, and I'm sure you can too. And there's other reasons why it would be advantageous for them to do that. And so in a situation like this, you've only got power 3 hours a day. So for every 24 hours, you've only got 3 hours where you've got juice. And it goes all the way through until level 18, where it's complete blackout. 24/7. Whether they get to that or not, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. But the point is that we need to be prepared for the possibility that it may be. And if and when that possibility, and I'm thinking when that possibility rears its ugly head, it's more than likely going to be winter time, because that's when they're warning it's going to happen in the UK. They're also calling it for the US and other places in Europe, threatening energy shortages leading to blackouts and stuff, right? And grid down scenarios, or rolling blackouts as well, that they're alluding to. So we need to watch it, because there's no way this isn't part of a thing, right? And I've talked about this for nearly 3 years as to what the plan would be, so it's pretty clear that it's likely it's going to happen. So it's important that we try and make sure that we're set up for the eventuality, because people can come unstuck very, very quickly. So the idea being is that I've got an off-grid battery system, which is okay. But you're not going to be running inverters and running, big 3 kilowatt electric heaters off it anytime soon. That's the problem. Just sorting my radio mic out, and then we can head over to the lab area. This will happen, says Sandy. Lovely to see you, Debbie. I hope everything's all right with you. Worst year ever for growing stuff, says Perps. Need a new direction. Wonder if the crap falling out of the sky was just killing stuff. More than likely. Urban Harvesting in the house. He was in his massage chair. So yeah, lovely to see you all with me. Thank you for joining us. And Let us know if you're new here. Let us know who you are. Introduce yourself, because we're super friendly here. We'll welcome you straight in with open arms. So do get yourself in the live chat. And don't forget, add your comments and questions on things that you want to know in the comments below if you're watching this afterwards. Okay. Sorry, I have now switched over to a radio mic. Yeah. So, let us know that everything sounds okay. Now I've switched the microphone, because I'm going to be taking a wander over to the lab and we're going to be unboxing the Chinese diesel heater and checking out what it's all about. I'm just making sure the stream's looking okay. Looks like there's a lot of funny business going on what YouTube's doing to this channel recently, but that's to be expected. They're just doing even funnier stuff than they've been doing before. So I'm just dealing with some of that right now. And then we'll get straight into it and have a little look and see what I've got for you this week with the Chinese diesel heater unboxing. Shall we do it then? Let's. So we should be good. We should be good. I'll still be able to talk to you in the chat, by the way. I've got, I'm logged in over there as well, so it'll all be good. Thank you, Daily Survival and Sandy, for your confirmation that we are sounding and looking all good. So this is where we are going to be for the next little bit. Let me take my tea with me. Come and join me. So let's pop my cup down there. Hello, everybody. Right. Let's make sure I can see what everybody's saying in the chat. Here we are then. Cheers. Let's pop the light on so we got full amount of light in there. Cheers, everybody. Right. So just to recap then. Just to recap what we talked about last week, so we can catch up with the point of what we've been talking about, right? So last week we talked about running things off of 12-volt battery packs, right? So we talked about 12-volt battery packs and how we can use them to generate light and heat with various LED things. And we did things like we tested the efficiency of different LED lighting with USB testers and so on, figuring out what things are going to consume. And then we moved on to talking about methods to heat things, right? And I was demonstrating just how kind of almost unrealistic it is to generate heat. It's not that it's unrealistic, but it's very juicy. This is 200 watts, if you remember, right? And this I can run from a battery pack like this, and there's a heating element here, electric fan here. And so this was all about generating heat with just 12-volt battery system, like an off-grid with a solar panel, right? So this could be a very small version of that with an MPPT lithium. This is a LiFePO 4 lithium phosphate pack, yeah. 20 amp hour, 21 amp hour. So this is a charge controller. That would be one configuration. So that it's perpetually rechargeable with solar panels, right? So we would assume that you would have some way of recharging your battery. But if you remember, I showed you, I gave you a brief overview of my e-harvesting kit, which contains all of the cables that you could possibly need for a grid down scenario, SHTF, and so on, with, you know, crocodile clips for going on a battery. You remember the one thing that I recommended, if nothing else, is to get yourself something like this, where you can just get a car cigarette socket with crocodile clips onto a battery, yeah, and then you can use things like the USB cigarette lighter interface connector, right? Now this is a 120 watt power delivery one, PD, USB-C, and USB-A. But that gives you lots of options, and you can just have that on a battery and so on. So that's kind of what we talked about as your options, and the things with the e-harvesting kit, and some of the things that is worth having so you can always get juice from point A to point B, right? And then we talked about things like kettles. So this is a 12 volt kettle that runs again on electricity on 12 volt battery bank. And this is a nice, quiet, clean way of boiling a litre of water using your battery, but it's gonna suck it big time, right? It's gonna discharge this pack after only a couple of hours of use. And to be honest, you're talking about 25 minutes maybe to boil a litre of water. So this pack is only gonna do that so many times. So the point of last week was to demonstrate how much energy it takes to create heat, right? We saw that for LED lighting it was perfect, right? But for anything else, it's not the best use of your energy. So that was kind of what we covered, right? And then of course I showed you options with things like the heating pad. Yeah, remember the heating pads, and we were measuring the temperature with a temperature probe and stuff. And again, this was running off 12 volts as a nice hand warmer, but super inefficient. So what we're going to do this week then is talk about a diesel heater, so that it means that rather than relying on just because it's so much energy, to put it in perspective, the central heating of a house in the UK is about 35 kilowatt hours. 35 kilowatt hours a day. Yeah. Well, 35 kilowatt, should I say, not 35 kilowatt hours. It's 35 kilowatt is the amount of energy. So the diesel heater that we were talking about is 8 kilowatt. So it's not going to be the equivalent to heat an entire house, but it's certainly going to make an impact. So let's get her up on here then. Although just quickly, before we get into that, let's just cover off, let's do it in the order we did it last week, where we did lighting then heat, right? So alternative methods of lighting rather than relying on electrical energy. Essentially, you've got options, but not many. You know, you got your typical small little tea lights that ain't gonna last 10 minutes. And then you got your slightly bigger ones, which ain't gonna last more than a few hours, right? Now, this was a tester, but rule number one, right? I don't know if you know this rule, but let me know if you know about candles having memory. Did you know that candles have memory? So I guarantee you, if you light your candle, right, and you wait for it and you let it get to, I don't know if you can see how far out it's burnt to this rim. If you then extinguish that flame, before it's gone all the way to the edge, every time you light that candle, it will burn to that edge over and over again. It has a memory. It's funny that. So it's a little tip. If you do it properly, right, which again, this one isn't, yeah? So do as I say, not as I do. It's just because these were just testers, right? But you'll see here as well, look at that small little rim where it was ignited and it was allowed to burn until this point. Now this is now going to be embedded in the candle's memory. Yeah, I'm not messing about, right? I'm serious. So when you light a candle, don't blow it out until it's gone all the way to the rim. Then blow it out, and then that expansion will be embedded in that candle's memory. So that's one little tip, right? But the reason that I said last week, I was like, do you know what? When it comes to things like these things in an SHTF scenario, the fire hazard, to be honest, and the carbon monoxide hazard isn't really worth the risk, right? Not when you can, with a USB battery bank and a nice LED strip, you can get a nicer light, a more reliable light, a less smelly light, yeah, a more controllable light, a less dangerous light, right? It's just not worth messing about. It really isn't, even if you're using these chaps. So another option is like a lantern. I know my main man, Netrum Design, who's one of our valued and I could proudly call a Patreon VIP. Thank you so much for being such a great man. Netrum Design's the master of lanterns, right? Now this is one my father gave me, yeah, which is my pride and joy because I just think it's absolutely beautiful. Look at it. How beautiful is that? And you know, it's traditional lamp. It was like, I actually tracked down the serial number and it was actually made in about 1983, 1984, ironically. And I actually spoke to the guy who helped make it. So that was quite cool. So obviously you've got options with oil lamps, which again, this week we're talking about sort of non-electrical powered, although ironically the Chinese diesel heater we're talking about tonight needs electricity too, right? It needs DC 12 volt power too. So this is the idea with this chap. I'm sure you're all familiar, but let's get let's light her up, shall we? And I'll show you the magnificence. But again, you see, I just don't know if it's worth the risk as a fire hazard if it gets knocked over or something like that. You've got the carbon monoxide build up as well. So, you know, but what a beautiful flame, right? I don't know, Andy, you've got your lights on, so I can't see. Well, let's turn the lights out and you see what we're chatting about. Yeah. What a beautiful clean flame. Now this has got smokeless, smellless lamp oil that I bought for this. I replaced the wick as well with a new wick. I bought a length of brand new wick off eBay. I cleaned up all of the brass, and also there's a gasket in here which I had my friend machine for me with a design I sent him and some gasket material. So it's a beautiful, beautiful lamp. Thank you, Daddy. I really appreciate it. It's definitely a keepsake. And Xavier, my son, has one exactly the same, but just a slightly smaller version. So how cool is that? So it's like, you know, I don't know, it's just sentimental as well, right? But what a beautiful lamp. But the thing is again, I'm still more likely to use my USB battery bank and an LED strip just for safety. And I wouldn't really want this to get damaged. But it's beautiful nonetheless, I've got to say. What an absolute babe. So yeah, this is, that's what we got rocking with there. And I thoroughly enjoyed bringing this back to life because, like I say, it was very old and I cleaned it up. It took a long time. So you've got options of lamps and things. I can just pull this. I'm just lowering. Let's get a nice angle here. I'm just lowering the. Oh, there we go. Just lower it down until it's extinguished, and so that's that. So. And it's smelly, you know, it's a lovely smell, it's beautiful, don't get me wrong. It reminds me of model aircraft flying, right? Where gas turbine jets used to fly where my model club was. Cheers, my darlings. So, let's have a look then. The other thing that I wanted to mention, of course, just to cap off on that, as last week we talked about the individual kettle elements, yeah, that again run on 12 volts. So these were the options we talked about with electrical, so that you can just efficiently heat or reheat a cup of tea, and clips on the side, right? So let's move that off. The other thing as well that I didn't go over last week, but another thing that is going to be important is you still may want to have. Here's a nice little camping fan that I take camping sometimes. As the base camp fan, it's just quite nice if you've got a heat or a cool problem and you want to move heat around, or even sometimes to keep it on the fire, you know, to keep it stoked up. So that's pretty cool. That comes in handy. But better than that, really, if you want a nice little small fan that I use to keep the fire going and to direct heat and smoke and things like that, is this little chap, usually in my bug out bag. Charges off a USB battery bank, and you've got the propeller that goes inside here, look, and it's brilliant. That goes on there, it's magnetic, right? You just make sure that's on securely. Job done, right? Throw her on. She means business, yeah? So these are quite cool, and what's great is you can have it like this, yeah, and you can lean it up, and you can direct the air wherever you want as well. And that could be handy if you've got like an exhaust pipe on the diesel heater we'll look at. You could use something like that if you were using it camping, to direct the heat from it, or to keep yourself cool. So that's pretty cool. I like that. That stays in my bug out bag as like a little emergency fan. So these are all the other options, but what we're going to do is have a look at this beauty. Here's my darling. Here she is then. So this is the Chinese diesel heater. Let's move it back here so we can get the light on it. Yeah, so we can see what we're looking at. Let's bring the light round here a bit, shall we? Because I'm blocking a bit of the light, you see, unfortunately, so I'll have to try and increase it like that. So this is the idea of it, right? Now, as I mentioned, there's different options. This is more of the mobile self-contained option, right? So the benefit of this is that if I wanted to, I could use this in the house or I could use this in here, yeah? Because I don't have any other option for heat in here. In the house, we have a fireplace. But equally, this could be put and use the exhaust going up the chimney in the living room, right, is one of the options. So I'll just familiarise you with what's going on here. This is the control panel. It's still got the sticky thing in. Are you ready? Because now we're ready to bond with it, and the bonding moment comes when you peel the sticker off for the first time. Are you ready? Are you ready, everyone? 3, 2, 1. Da, 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 da. Ah, and here she is in her shining glory. So here we go then. This is removable, but it doesn't go much longer than that. So there's not a lot of, you know, that could be useful if you've got perhaps if you're building this into a box system, then you may want to have that. You can get that cable out a little bit, but not too much. So this isn't something that you can move and put somewhere far away, although you could extend the cable on that to give it extra reach. This is where the hot air comes out, yeah? And you can see, if we see inside, can we see inside there? We might be able to, if I get some torch action on it. So, can you see? Right, so inside is a heat sink. Yeah, there's a heat sink in there, and that's the diesel burner, like the furnace, if you like, right? So what happens is this is the back side, and you can see this is the fan intake, right? I'll take the casing off in a second, we'll have a look inside, right? But this is where the air is sucked in, and then the air is blown out this side, super hot, once it's passed over that heat sink. And that heat sink is heated up by the fuel going in. If you see underneath here, yeah, you can see there's an air intake and an exhaust, yeah? And then there's the fuel pipe here that the diesel feeds in to the burner. So there's a burner in here that heats up that heat sink, and then the clean air comes in, gets heated up with that heatsink, and then passes out already hot. So the exhaust is separate, so the exhaust doesn't go anywhere near the hot air. Nowhere near it at all. Right, so you ain't got to worry about that. But we'll get into that in a second when we have a look inside and we see what's going on in there, right? So let's get her back on her feet. Boom! I hope everything's looking okay for you guys on the B camera. So it's actually a little bit smaller than I thought. So rule number 1, you need to be taking the cap off the fuel before you want to take the casing off, right? And you'll notice there's actually a hole on the cap here, which is a good sign. So that'll allow the vacuum not to build up a vacuum, yeah, inside the fuel tank as it starts to drain. The level drains down, it will create a negative vacuum inside, which is not good. So you've got these little clippy clip jobs on there. Let's get those off. On the front and the back. We'll move those out. So let's pop that over there. So here we go then. These are the main components, you see? Very straightforward. So you've got one cable coming off here, which is the power cable. Yeah? So you got, this is just wants 12 volt DC, all right? So like your 12 volt battery bank. So you're still gonna need power, and it turns out you're gonna need a reasonable amount, but not too much long period, but it will need about 100 watts of power to drive the coil. Do you remember the coil I said to you I've got spare coming, yeah? So let's go through the components. So down here, then you've got the main heater unit, in a lot of vans, like camper vans and stuff, they'll only have this diesel heater unit as just the main unit in the van. They won't bother with the rest of it, right? But this is a convenient setup that puts it in a case, and it means that you can contain the main diesel heater, and the pump is here, the fuel the fuel jug, and everything's self-contained, right? So it is slightly more convenient having it in this format, where, you know, you can just pick it up and take it into the house or something, or you can take it camping with you, or indeed you can put it in your car as a parking heater, or in your truck or lorry or something like that, right? So that's the idea. So let's have a switcheroo. This cable here going into the main diesel heater is the coil. Now what the coil does is, when the fuel starts going through and into the main system, the coil preheats the diesel. For those that don't know, diesel doesn't just ignite immediately, right? Diesel needs to be quite hot or under a lot of pressure, and therefore heat, in order for it to ignite. And so the coil gets that heat going inside the burn chamber, preliminarily, only for about 10 minutes, right? It will go up to about 10 amps, which is quite a lot. That's about 120 watts. But it'll only do that for about 10 minutes. Once it's brought it up to temperature, it will then be self-igniting, and it will be self-perpetuating in the internal combustion chamber. And then that will just be self-sustaining, and the coil power will reduce down to only about 1 amp, right? Now I'm yet to boot this up because I need to do a few bits and pieces. I need to get some diesel in it and some other things. This hasn't been run yet. So that's the idea. That's what this is then. This is the coil which heats up inside, and so this is the fuel pump here, and I might change some of the things inside here. Having looked at it, there's a few things that are a bit I wouldn't have done it like that kind of things, right? But you can see here's the fuel nipple at the bottom here, and I have checked, there is indeed a small filter in there, it built inside the tank, at least, yeah. So you can see here is the pump. Let's get this light around here. Can you see? Here's the pump. This is the fuel pump, and it needs to be at 45 degrees roughly. Yeah, it doesn't want to be straight up. It doesn't want to be horizontal or vertical. The fuel pump needs to be about 45 degrees. So if I take that out of there, you can probably see it easier. Look, you see. So this is the angle the fuel pump's at, and it's important that it's at this angle. But this curve here is a little bit too aggressive, so I may reroute this and move this to a bolt slightly over a bit, and then that'll be a slightly less aggressive curve, because I don't want to see that fuel pipe crimping. So I'll figure that out. So that's the fuel pump. It takes the juice out of it sucks the diesel out of the fuel tank, and then runs it round down there, and then you saw before how that goes into the fuel inlet at the bottom here, which is where the fuel goes in, right? It goes into here. And then these two ports here, as I mentioned, is the air intake and the exhaust. And so let's show you what comes in the box then along with that. So first things first then, this is the length of exhaust pipe that you get. That's what you get in the box. So this is why I've ordered more, because to be honest, if we were going to even put this in the fireplace in the house, in the living room, as an emergency heat source, this is the muffler. Yeah, so this is the muffler that comes with it, which is adequate, but you can use two in parallel, in series, one after another, and it will reduce the sound even more. But it's only the sound of rushing air. It's not like a it's just it's a constant stream of air, and that ramps up and ramps down. So, usual sort of connecty sort of thing, and you need to put your clips around there. I've also got some exhaust paste, some high temperature stuff. I think I'll get the box on the chair here. So I've got some of this as well. which is exhaust assembly paste. And so when it comes to putting sort of connections together to make sure there's no leakages of any exhaust fumes anywhere, right, I'll be sure to make sure that's nice and secure. Also, you'll notice on this muffler here there is a small hole. Now, it's very important you take note of that, because this is the hole so that the condensation can drip out of it, otherwise it will collect inside the muffler, and that's not a good look. So do be aware of that. There's a small hole on the muffler, and so wherever you have it, that hole wants to be pointing down, so that when it's cooling down and the condensation attracts to it, that water can flow out nice and freely. So however you configure it, that wants to be pointing down. So that's the only length that you've got with that. Look, it's not epic. So that's why I've ordered another length, which hasn't arrived yet, right? And the length comes with another muffler anyway. And since there's no backflow, it's not like a combustion engine, which is, is partly moving backwards and forwards the air through the exhaust. This is a constant stream out, yeah? So having two in a row is not going to affect any tuning of the engine, because it's not really an engine. It's just literally a burning furnace, which is in a self-contained unit, so no smoke escapes or anything. It just heats up that heatsink inside that you saw, right? And once that heatsink gets hot, there's a fan inside here. That's the other thing that the 12 volt is needed for constantly, is to run the fan inside, which obviously sucks the air in the intake and out the outlet nice and hot, right, is the idea with that. So do let us know. I'm trying to keep track of any questions in the chat. So yeah, that's the idea with that. Now this is a 5 litre tank. Now the benefit when you buy this separately as a separate heating unit is you'll usually get a 10 litre tank with it, right? But to keep it nice and compact, they give you a 5 litre tank. Now on all the reviews that I've seen and from operational usage, it looks like it's about 300 millimeters, 150 to 300 milliliters per hour, right? So don't forget, this is 8 kilowatt, which it doesn't need to be. This is a bit in case I need to use it for the house as an emergency as well. But this is 8 kilowatt. I'm planning on using this on the lowest power. And even then, I think it's going to be consuming about 200 milliliters an hour. But of course, I'll be doing a full run test with this once the other parts arrive. So in the meantime, let's carry on with the components then. This is what you get for the, this is what you get as the hose, right? And you can see again, it's not amazingly massive. Yeah. You see, it's not a massive length. Now bear in mind, this does extend, yeah, but it's not massive. And this is the hose, of course, for the outlet. Yeah, so you can direct the air where you need it. Now that's the hot air end. So the air will come out of there nice and toasty. And then you can angle that where you want. Oops. And don't forget, that was where I showed you on AliExpress, there's options of where you have the hoses. You can have T junctions, Y junctions, and you can have, nice vents as well. You can open and close, which in order to direct the air where you want the flow, right? So there's definitely options there. I'm not quite decided, because one of the tricky things is you can either have this mounted inside and have the exhaust pipe going out. Yeah. So assume, let's get the other bits and pieces so you can just see the main components that we're talking about. So this is 750, well, sorry, this is 75. Let's use this one. So this is the 7, was actually more like 80 mil, but it's basically 7.5 centimeters. Yeah. 7.5, so that's 75 mil diameter is what that one is. That's the inlet and outlet is 75 millimeters. The hose that's the air intake for the combustion is 22 to 24, about 1 inch. Yeah, about 1 inch hose there. And again, this is sort of expandable and bendable as you'd expect, right? And then you get an air filter, which ensures that the air it's sucking in to burn in the combustion chamber is nice and clean. But it's a reasonably unimpressive air filter, but to be honest, it's more of a foreign object and debris filter than an air filter, because the mesh is quite a big diameter mesh, as it would be called, in terms of the holes. But like I say, this is more just to stop big spiders getting sucked in there or something like that, you know. It's more like insects getting down the air intake, and obviously clogging up the furnace inside the combustion chamber. So that's the idea with that. And again, you'd be using your clips to make sure it's all nice and secure and stuff, right? So that's your air intake, and that goes on the bottom, don't forget. And you can see there's a cutout on the bottom here for the tube to two. There's a recess under here for the actual hoses to come out. I noticed there's one on the air intake side. And I'll tell you what's interesting with that one, is I had considered whether it was worth bringing the exhaust up, yeah, and then past this air intake, so that the air's having to be sucked in past the exhaust pipe, which would be hot, so that the air starting off is already warm, yeah, and then being warmed up even more, yeah. So that would be the idea with that. So let me know everything's okay in the chat, by the way. So it's a Spider Whacker 2 bonus, says Daily Survival. I'm trying to keep track of the live chat as well. Thank you everyone for being with us. I do appreciate you all being here. Thermal underwear and gloves and hat and thick socks and massive warm clothes and blankets may have to suffice here, says Carolyn Rose. She's in Australia, so she doesn't have to deal with the temperatures we have to here. So that's the idea with the exhaust. You saw that on one of the things I'd ordered is the right angle bracket. So that'll exit out of either here, or more than likely, to be honest, I'll probably have the exhaust coming out of this side one. And to be honest, if I had that sitting in front of the fireplace in the living room, that exhaust, yeah, would basically come out of here like that, yeah, and it would angle up into the, I'd have to have the muffler piece down the bottom, yeah, so that it dripped out, and then, you know, the exhaust going up the chimney should do the trick. So I'm going to need to do some configuration with the exhaust and things when that arrives, so bear that in mind. Cheers everybody. So what else we got? So the other thing as well you get with it is this little chap, yeah. So this is a little remote control, and this isn't an infrared remote control, this is actually a wireless one. It says connecting, please wait, because obviously the main heater unit would need to be powered up as well. And this connects directly to this panel here, which gives you a readout of the power setting, the fan setting, and so on, right? So that's the idea with that. So you've got at least the option of powering it on and, you know, powering it off remotely. So if you did want to mount it outside in a box or something outside, and you just, because bear in mind, I could have that outside in a box that I would make, yeah, with some plywood or something, and then with extra air hose, yeah, you would just have the air hose coming into your home or into your van or into your tent or whatever, yeah, in your base camp, because it can be used for anything. So that's one option. Or I have that in here and I just run the exhaust outside, you see, and hence having the heat protection stuff if I'm going to run it through a hole out of the wall, you know. So there's the two options for you. You can either have the whole thing inside and run the exhaust pipe out, making sure that it's nice and secured. That was what I was saying about the exhaust paste, mounting paste, yeah. So you can make sure you've not got any leaks in your joins for the exhaust. But it's super clean. It doesn't come out smoky anyway. If you watch these things run, it's basically completely clear. If it's burning right, it will be completely clear air, yeah, exhaust coming out of it. There's a bunch of Jubilee clips and things as well that come with it, as you'd expect, for the hoses. I do have some titanium heat-proof ones, but unfortunately I don't seem to have the tool that I used to have to ratchet them. So I might need to do something even better than that and figure out what's the latest craze, really. The other thing that I grabbed hold of on Amazon, which is going to be handy, is a nice funnel with a detachable hose so that I can easily top it up out of your fuel can, right? So it's amazing how all these things add up. And the fuel can as well is, and it was only, I think, £10 for a pack of 2. But you'll see inside it's got a filter on it. You don't need to worry too much about it restricting the flow. It's such a big gauze, but it will stop any big bits of dirt or whatever getting through, right? So that's worth looking for if you're getting a funnel. So you can't go wrong with starting off with nice clean fuel, right? And you'll end up with less carbon deposits built up inside the furnace, which will just make it last longer, which is what we want, especially if it's going to be used for emergencies, yeah? What else we got? So the other thing as well I had to grab was a fuel can, and look what they did to me. I said to them specifically I wanted yellow. This was a Sigma Prepper quiz question, don't forget. What colour should what fuel can be? I ordered this one, which is only a 10-litre one, because I've already, you know, basically I'm out of money already. That's it. I can't spend anything until after Christmas now. And it's all these little things that all add up, right? It's like, oh man, now I've got to get a fuel can because my other one seems to have sucked itself in irreturnably. And they sent me one that's red and I wanted it to be yellow for diesel, but I don't know what I'm going to do about that, but I need to get some diesel so I can give it a go. So I might have to just suck it up and deal with the red, and then when I can afford it, get a better one. But I'd like to get one of those metal jerry cans. So that's the other thing. I need to pick up some diesel for it once the new exhaust pipe comes, and then I'll get it rocking, and I'll do a whole video showing that live, right? Or not, maybe not live, but I'll do a video showing how it is. We'll mark it. I'll put a certain amount of fuel in and we'll measure it, and we'll see how much fuel it's taking over what length of time, and how much energy is being consumed by the battery banks. Don't forget, it needs to run on 12 volts, right? I mean, I can plug it. Shall we plug it in now? I can not plug it in, but I can at least short jack it straight in, because it hasn't even got a plug. It doesn't even have a plug on the end of the what's-its, but don't try this at home, kids. So let's get that in there. And let's do a quick check, and it should at least do something, and we'll just make sure that the display lights up and we're good to go. We're looking all right. It's looking fine. Nothing can start up anyway. Just making sure there's nothing looking out of place before we go and connect this black one in there. So here we go, look. We've got life. So you're seeing it the first time as I am, right? So here we go then, she's rocking. Should we start just, if in doubt, whack it about? Oh look, we've got a ticky fan. Right, sorry, let's get this out of the way quickly. So did you hear we've already got signs of a rubby fan inside, yeah? So you'll notice, and by the way, you shouldn't start it up and then just cut it off. I can do that because there's no fuel in it anyway, right? But the idea being is that when you turn the actual heater off, it will spool down and it will keep the igniter coil. It will reignite it to make sure it burns off any fuel that's left in it, right? So you can't just disconnect the power from it to turn it off. It needs to shut itself down and to be left to shut down nicely, right? So, sorry, I had a thing saying if I was going to allow your what's-its. I'm seeing if I can check in on people's chat. I appreciate you'll be with us. could hear the fan. You could hear the fan, could you? Yeah. Dave Masters in the house. Great to see you, man. How do you know it's... I don't know, keep that as an emergency, Jerry, for old fuel waste can. Yeah, but I can't afford not to. Ansett girl, my lovely. Great to see you in the house. Let's pop you there. So, yeah, the idea being is I will take this out. Yeah. I think what I'm going to do is just disconnect that. Disconnect the fuel there. And I think what I'll be doing is to remove this from the case, yeah? And I'm going to take this apart. We won't have time to do it tonight. How long have we been live? How long have we been live? Does it even tell me on here? It doesn't, does it? Well, I know that we started roughly 11, so we've been going a bit, haven't we? We've been going about an hour. Okay, so the idea is what I'm going to do, and I'll perhaps do a video of this tomorrow, and I'll show you how it goes, is I'm going to show you how I'm going to overcome this problem of it ticky, ticky, ticky. And I hope you heard that when I booted it up for the first time. You could hear... It sounds like it's coming from the inlet side, but I can't get to it without first removing it from this chassis, right? And there's a few things I'm going to need to do before I can do that. And I'll need to get my socket set out as well. So I'll leave that for tomorrow, but I will share that experience with you. But let's just listen. Should we hear it again? And I'll make sure that the mic's nice and next to it, and then you can see what I'm talking about. And then I'll tell you how I go about fixing a ticky rubbing fan. Yeah. So I'm just twisting up these cables. This isn't the way to do it. Don't forget, don't try this at home. I am a qualified electronic, robotic and software engineer. But here we go. Let's give her some juice. Shall we see if we can turn it on with a controller? It says connecting, please wait. It has got juice. I wonder if it's going to give us any notifications. I need to put it on a couple of blocks of wood as well. So there will be a procedure to bind that together, but for the time being, here we go. Can you hear? It's quite a lot. Yeah. So, yeah. So we've definitely got something that's obstructing the fan inside the housing. There's probably a little bit of dodgy plastic burr or something on it. So what I'll do tomorrow is I'll take this diesel heater unit out from the bottom here. This is just a tray, to be honest, that sits in here. That can just come out straight away. We'll need to reroute that fuel cable anyway, because there's no way I'd have that like that. I don't know who put this together, but it's not going to let me get that off there, is there? Not without easing it off first. So yeah, I'll need to pull this apart, obviously, sort out that fan, and then what I'll do is I'll put a proper XT60 connector on here. So one of these sort of things. So a nice XT60 connector. Sorry about the light situation. I need to buy a new studio light. I just, obviously, as you know, I don't have the funds at the moment, but I'm doing what I can with what I got. So XT60 connector, I'll be soldering onto here as well, depending on what ends up happening with it. But I'll get that open tomorrow and I'll show you what's inside, and that'll be the next part of it, and then I can share with you what it looks like in there and how I overcome the clicky fan rubbing business. You would think that they would test them before they leave the factory, but of course we don't know what happened in the shipping. There could have been something that's just slightly been moved or dislodged inside, which has caused the fan to rub up against something, but we'll find that out tomorrow. We'll have a look at that, and I'll let you know what happened to it. There we go. So let's leave that there. Turn that around for you. And like I say, what I am going to want to do is to prop this up on some blocks of wood, right? And just raise it up a bit. I have got some blocks of wood, but I need to remember to do some circular sawing before it gets too late in the day and it's already dark here in the UK by about 4 p.m, right? So that would be the plan, and I need to circular saw off a few bits of wood, bolt that to that, and that will raise up a bit. And the benefit of that is it will just give me some space underneath for that exhaust outlet to come out, and again for the air intake. Yeah, it will just give that a bit more room. In fact, that'll be at the back end probably, but so that's the plan. So there's a few things to do to get it rocking. So don't think you can just buy one and then just like start it out straight away. I mean, you probably could in some cases, but I like to be straps and braces for anything that's for prepping, anything that's going to be, you know, mission critical type device like that, right? I need to rely on it, which is why I've bought a spare pump. And I bought a spare coil that goes inside, so at least I'll have a spare of the most common things that would fail. And again, most people that I see doing reviews of these, like van lifers for the Chinese diesel heaters, they say they've been having them for 3 years, running them for 3 years constantly, never a problem. So I love the fact that they're super efficient. I love the fact that they're pretty, you know, super safe as well, because there's no exposed flame, there's no exposed gases. And the exhaust goes nowhere near the outlet and the intake. That's the key. So as long as you can have your exhaust muffler ending up somewhere. I've seen people just literally sticking this part out of their out of their patio doors, yeah, or their French doors. They just literally have the exhaust pipe sticking out. Job done. So I want to be doing something a little bit more permanent, sophisticated, and, you know, sort of slightly better done than that, for anyone that knows me. But that's the plan. That's what I'll be doing tomorrow. Let's have a quick look at the chat and see what's going on in there. Can see Finer Mobile, Perp's in there. It doesn't even like the word, what do you call it? That's interesting. It's I'm just looking through the chat here, and the things that it says, asking me if I want to allow the chat message or not, that's all. Yeah. Thank you everyone for being here with me, I do appreciate it. It heats well enough, I may get one of those, would be very useful, says Ghost Cowboy. Totally. Equally, I've seen so many people have great success with these. I'm really keen to get it rocking, and Magic Hand said that if it's any good, then if she can afford it, she'll try and get one for the house. But yeah, it's just, to be honest, it's not really 120, 140 pounds, because once you've bought all the paraphernalia that you kind of need if you're going to do it properly, because let's face it, you know, if you're going to have this unit outside and you're going to feed the hot air in, I think we both know. Yeah, that's just not gonna make it, right? So you're gonna probably want to get yourself some extra hose. You might even want to get yourself an oversized fuel tank as well and mount that separately. That could be the benefit of buying just a unit on its own rather than self-contained as one unit. But as the first one, I thought it'd be nice to have it as the mobile, more portable, because then I can use it for camping. All I need to do is this battery pack would be enough to run the coil for this and to run the fan for several hours, quite a lot of hours. But we'll do a test on it, right? And I'll let you know in terms of battery power, because the diesel's easy to store. Don't forget, you've got a good 12 to 18 months storage on diesel versus more six months for gasoline. So it's easy to store. If you've got any jerry cans, because I've got 2 jerry cans that one's got gasoline in it and I can't find anywhere to actually empty it out. It's been there a year. Shame on me. Sigma Pepper hasn't been rotating his jerry cans, right? So that's one problem. The other problem is that the other jerry can was left empty, and the first jerry can was left a bit full, so it's actually slightly expanded, you know, in the temperature differential. The other jerry can was left empty, and that's actually sucked itself in just from it becoming a vacuum with, again, hot and cold temperatures. So they haven't been treated well, and they're obviously not great quality in the first place. They are these cheap Amazon Basics type thing, and the plastic isn't amazingly thick. Obviously, I do recommend a metal fuel can. But it will do for the time being, as long as I can get some diesel from the gas station to in here, so we can get it fired up and rocking is what we want, right? So there's a few steps I've got left to do before we can get this rocking, as you can see. But I'm going to deal with some of these issues tomorrow. I'll document it, hopefully tomorrow. What's tomorrow? It's Friday, isn't it? Right, so hopefully I'll be able to document it, and I'll let you know what it looks like in here, and if I can track down what that noise is, something's rubbing in there. Give it maybe a quick service in there before we fire it up for life. And I'll let you know what happens with it, right? So yeah, that's kind of the idea. What else have I got here? The other thing that I wanted to mention as well was something I really want to talk to you about, maybe in one of the a separate show altogether. But I would like to give you a full rundown on my beautiful Kelly kettle. I love my Kelly. She's such an absolute beaut and a babe. Look how she looks. Because this is another great option, you know, for the grid down scenario. In a fireplace, this is about the most efficient way of boiling water for your hot water bottles. So it does come under heat, but I do feel that the Kelly kettle options are a little bit more. This is the fire base, yeah, that you build your fire in, and then the Kelly kettle sits on top, and the water goes in around the rim, and the fire comes straight up the top chimney, yeah, and that's hollow, and the water contained all the way around there. This is my own stopper design with some silicone tubing and that to make it more quieter when I'm jogging about. So that's your option for the Kelly kettle, which I'll be doing a full review of. I've done quite a few modifications to this as well I'd like to share with you. So this will come under the more traditional heating and cooking options with just a very small bit of tinder and you know, just some small bits of firewood. You know, I've got my cup in here. There's a little saucepan and things and plate. There's a few other things, but this is the stuff that I keep as part of this kit in my bug out bag. This is what I take bushcraft camp every year. This is what everybody's tea and things gets made in every year. Yeah. Boom. Boom. You can tell how many times I've done this. Oh dear. So yeah, that's my Kelly kettle. So I'll be doing a full review of that, showing you all the bits and pieces inside and out, because again, this is quite a valid product when we're talking about heaters and things. But the benefit of this is you haven't got the smoke like you have with a Kelly kettle or something like that. You don't have the carbon monoxide problem that you do with a gas heater, propane and butane heaters. We haven't talked about that yet, but we will be in an upcoming video. As long as you can make sure that your exhaust pipe is outside, or the whole thing stays outside, and you just need to feed it your 12 volt from inside, or wherever you got your 12 volt going to it, just a car battery. And the whole thing can just sit outside quite happily and just have a long enough ducting that you can direct that heat in through. I mean, I've got a cap flap down there. I was tempted to bring it through the cap flap, but at the moment I've already got my solar panel cables and GPS nav cables, antennas of various kinds as well going out. So I'm not sure if I'm going to need to do a specific hole going outside, a glory hole going outside for the exhaust to go out, or whether this thing, I build it outside into a cabinet and I just have the hot air coming in. But bear in mind, that will mean that I'm bringing in cool air to heat into hot air. Whereas if the whole unit stays indoors, then it's going to be bringing in what's already somewhat warm air to heat up the warm air, so it'll be more efficient. So, but the other benefit of having it indoors, don't forget, is the noise from a SHTF scenario. You know, it's far more stealthy and it's inside, and all you've got is just a very discreet exhaust pipe outside that by the time you've doubled up the muffler, don't forget, which is my plan, because the other length of exhaust pipe came with a muffler. It was the same price. I think it was like 70 cents difference to include an extra muffler. So I thought, well, that'll make it a bit quieter. So by the time you've got 2 of these, yeah, outside, that's going to be quite quiet, right? So that's your options. I hope what I've been showing you tonight has been interesting and insightful for those that have been thinking about these Chinese diesel heaters. They get great reviews and they get great results, and they are very efficient. I'm looking forward to cracking this open tomorrow and having a look and see if I can track down that bit of rubbing that's going on in there, because we can't be having some noisy fan ticking around in there. So we'll figure that out tomorrow, don't worry. So what I'm going to do then, let's flick back to the main cam then. You come with me and we'll jump back to hither. Hello, my darlings. Let's get my headphones plugged back in and then I can hear what's going on. So, I hope everyone's been enjoying. Biscuit tea is lovely too. Kettle kettle, I need one. That's one of my best investments, my kettle kettle. I've had that for many years, and that was quite expensive for the ultimate range, which is where you get 2 cups, 2 plates, and various other things you get with it. So. Absolutely, Danger Bob. Believe me, that's the plan. Condensation, yes. The condensation's all right. Like I say, the muffler exhaust pipe has a little small hole on it where that needs to be facing down, so that as it does condense, that can drip out of that hole and not clog it up. So nicely done, Andy. Very insightful. Thank you, my darling. I appreciate it. Hey, Dave Masters. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Guessing fan blade not pushing in on stem. Yeah, it will just be part of the housing. Is the clearance of it is probably a bit tight, is what it is, extreme. But I'm looking forward to digging around inside there, and I'll show you what it looks like inside. Because if somebody else gets that problem, they'll be able to see an easy fix for it, right? Night night, my lovely perps. I know you've got work in the morning. I hope you'll join us. You know when, you know where. Want to sign up for a subscription on Flash News? Yeah. So thank you everyone for being with me. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've been rocking a while now. What we've been going for? Over an hour. So I hope it's been. Of course, we skipped. Well, I say skipped. Usually we would have the SHTF Intel as part of the show tonight, but I decided to do that as a separate thing altogether. Yeah. So it's a separate, I did the SHTF Intel separately earlier on, so I will add the link in the description to this, but if you didn't catch that, then you can catch that if you check out the videos, and I'll add it into the description below. Don't forget to add yourself onto Discord. It's completely free of charge to sign up on Discord. We've got loads of stuff going on there. Come and join the crew over there. We've got loads going on, lots of stuff that we share, little trips we've had away, people's prepping progress and things like this. It's great in there, so please join us. And of course, we got tonight. We're going to be hanging with the VIPs in the after party on Discord. So I hope if you're a VIP, you'll be able to join me for that. And if you're not a VIP, links in the description. Patreon.com/SigmaPepper if you would like to join the family. But in the meantime, I hope you've had a great time. Thank you everyone for being with me. Please hit the like button if you haven't done already. Crypto Sam in the house. Great to see you. So yeah, I hope it's been useful for everybody, and like I say, I've got more videos coming because I need to go over the diesel heater tomorrow when I wake up, and I'll have a little look. Put Discord link in the description. It's missing tonight. Isn't that amazing? What's the chances of the Discord? How could the Discord link possibly be missing? I have no idea, but let's make sure we get that fixed up. But on the website, sigmaprepper.com, you'll see there's a link everywhere on the bottom of the website as well for the Discord server. You can sign up. But if it's not in the description of the one tonight, then I shall make sure that I add it in. I'm doing it right now, actually, so bear with me. Awesome show tonight. Thanks, Ghost Cowboy. I appreciate that. Let's have a look then. Oh, it's not, is it? It is now. Right, Discord link is in the description. Let's make sure it's in the SHTF Intel live show I did last an hour before as well, to make sure. Oh, it's not as well. Maybe that's been taken out secretly. Wouldn't surprise me, the amount of stuff's messing me about at the moment, but there you go. Unbelievable. Okay, well, at least that's in there. Thank you very much for bringing it up and giving me the heads up on that one. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Daily Survival, for your support. Really appreciate each and every one of you being with us tonight. Robert McNamara in the house. I hope you had a great trip. Hopefully we'll get to catch up with you in the live after party next on Discord. Thank you to the VIPs. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you for hitting the like button. And yeah, I've had a wonderful time. I hope you have. I'll be back sooner than normal, I'm hoping. There's no reason why not. And from myself, love, peace and progress to the pack.